Welcome back. We are getting ready to head into the first round.
Yes, so we have Reduke. Everyone knows who Reduke is. If you don't, that's your loss because Reduke's great. One of the best players around at the minute. So Reduke's going to be playing against Ivan Meyer, who I have been told by Justin Parnell that he was the top 8 competitor for CubeCon last year. So he is looking to do back-to-back top 8s at CubeCon, and he's looking to win it. He seems pretty serious, and he's up against Reduke.
It could be anyone's game.
It could be anyone's game.
Yeah.
I even drafted
Exciting.
a really sweet Ragdoll Sacrifice deck, which is one of the more powerful archetypes in this cube. Reed is going to be playing a Simic Rampy style deck. He drafted a lot of Mana Dork, so there's a lot of Llanowar Elvis Mystics, Yorker Tree Speakers. But he also has stuff like Sifter Worm, Ridgetail's Tusker. And he has cards like Growth Spiral, and there's some interaction in there with Force of Will. So it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out.
Definitely. So can we talk about one of our sponsors?
Yeah, we can do this quickly before this game starts.
Oh.
So.
MTGO.
Yep, great
Magic
place.
Online.
You should play Cube. I believe right now on Magic Online you can play Frank Laporte's Horror Cube because it's spooky season. So that cube includes all the Innistrad sets. And
Right.
so Ivan's kicking off with a Carrion Feeder, which is a really good turn 1 play as someone who plays for your sacrifice deck. You just want to put down your threats as easy as possible. So Carrion Feeder is going to chip in for 1 here. Okay, Ivan has a Lampowder Vigil, which is another sacrifice outlet. Just coming up the board with this 1/3 and just looking to establish all these sacrifice threats and just draw into more interaction.
What did Reed play?
He played a Mindstone.
Mindstone, okay.
Oh, here comes the Judas. So
Oh.
Ivan has this really cool curve. Like, yes, these cards care about sacrificing. They could also punch you in the face if there's a Judith on the other side of the board due to the +1/+0 that Judith brings.
Yeah, that's a strong start. He's already at 15 life.
It's a very strong start. Ragdoll Sacrifice can just curve out and kill people. You can be the aggressor in these builds, which might be a problem for Reed because Reed is this ramp deck. There may be a point these Mana Dogs are just going to be on chump block duty with these just these threats in play. And Judith is really punishing just because if you block and remove one of these creatures, she's going to deal 1 damage to you.
Right. And he has the sacrifice in the 2 costs. The Lampod has you can pay 1 colorless and sacrifice something.
Yes, you can do that. Let me just get up the text. So Lampowder Death Vigil is a 1/3 for 2. You can pay 1 generic mana and you sacrifice a creature. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
Right, so that can close out a game.
Yeah, it's kind of a slower Blood Artist, but it's something that this deck needs. The 1/3 is also nice here.
That's the murderous red cap.
Oh no, here we go.
Ooh. So sacking and comes back with persist.
It does 3 damage due to Judith.
Oh,
yeah.
This is so fast.
This is
wow.
really fast. I think Reed's going to have a real hard time here because Reed's already at 9 and this is 10-4.
Right. I would say, what? Is that 2?
Yeah, I think Reed is just dead here. Yeah, that was a 10-4 kill.
That was so fast.
Yeah, this cube can be really fast. If you know what you're doing, Ivan had like an incredible curve there. And that's how it happens sometimes. Like, it's just, like, I don't think Ivan could have asked for a much better hand there. Just going sack outlet to Judith, which is just a really good aggressive topper, and then you have this murderous red cap that can deal 3 with Judith in play,
That's
and it
so
just
cool.
obliterate you. That was incredible. But yeah, let's go back to Magic Online, which is one of our sponsors this weekend. Magic Online is one of the best places to play Cube. I imagine you play Cube Online a lot. I have played a lot of Cube Online. It's where you can play Vintage Cube a lot of the time. As I said earlier, Frank Laporte has this spooky cube because it is spooky season because we're getting close to Halloween. So if you enjoy Innistrad Block Limited, it has all the Innistrad sets in there. I'd recommend checking it out. Another cool thing about Magic Online is that you can qualify for the Pro Tour on it.
There's so many qualifiers.
Right, there's so many. I can't even keep up. And at one point, Magic Online also had these top 64 elimination drafts for Vintage Cube, which was a really nice competitive way to get ready for CubeCon.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you to our sponsors, Magic Online and Daybreak Games, who now run Magic Online for Wizards of the Coast. I think Reed's in a lot of trouble here.
I mean, he's gonna be on the play, so
Yep.
he might be able to get ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think a lot of these mana dorks are going to be on chump duty, and it's going to be really hard because Ivan has a lot of this cheap removal. He has the Firebolt, he has the Chain Lightning. I saw a Hero's Downfall in his pool, and he has like the Mayhem Devil, which is the signpost card that you want in these sacrifice decks. The fact it can deal 1 damage, it can chip away at these Llanowar Elves, these Elvish Mystics, and everything else. So Reed's going to have a really hard time reaching to that top end, but also just surviving to make that top end, to get that 4/5 mana, to play a Ridge Tusker, to play a Sifter Worm. So yeah, it's not looking good at the minute.
So Ivan also has a lot of like direct damage burn.
Right, this is it. So as I mentioned during that very quick game 1, you can just be the aggressor. You can have this 1-2-3 curve, turn sideways, and then just chip away. Just do the last few points of damage with like a Firebolt or a Chain Lightning. That is also reasonable. You don't have to tie into this sacrifice shenanigans, even though we saw that with Murderous Redcap. That basically turned into a lightning bolt.
That was awesome.
That was disgusting but fun. And that gives you the idea of Peasant Cube. Like, a lot of people see Peasant Cube as something a bit mopey, something a bit slow, just because there aren't like these rares and mythic rares that are usually quite powerful. There is no Moxen, there is no power. There are some strong cards, granted, but it's all about synergy. And if you have strong synergies, you can have a lot of fun in these environments.
Definitely.
And given the amount of how Wizards of the Coast like to downshift card these days, with sets like Commander Masters, with that release, I managed to put a lot more cards in this cube because they were downshifted. You saw a Goreclaw in the draft earlier today. That was downshifted from a rare. And also Gonti, Lord of Luxury, one of my favorite black cards, is now an uncommon, which is also in the queue. And if you played that card, that one's pretty messed up.
Especially if you can like blink them.
Right, this is it. There's a blink strategy. I saw someone draft like a Dimir control deck with Gonti and being able to ghostly flicker and just steal the opponent's best cards.
That's gross.
It's just gross but fun. So while it's easy just to like shrug off these pauper and peasant cubes, I recommend checking them out because they're good fun. It gives a different approach to Magic, a different way to play these games without thinking, I just want to do the most busted thing. I want to do the Black Lotus. I want to do all the Storm stuff. You can have a lot of fun with these lower powered formats. And they're also, the reason it's called Peasant is because it's cheap. There's an affordability to build in cube. Like you could probably build a good Peasant cube for like $200, $300 if you just pick out the most basic versions. Not like my cube, which is pretty much filled out, which is the opposite of a Peasant cube because I plan to keep it for a while. But you could probably build a nice Peasant cube, even a Pauper cube for less than $200, and you're going to get a load of mileage out of that. That's like cheaper than a standard deck.
So what inspired you to do a peasant, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'm someone that likes to play a lot of, so I play a lot of Pauper, and a lot of people know that I'm on the Pauper format panel. So I have a really good idea and a real appreciation of playing these like lower rarity formats, and I just wanted to replicate that in a cube. So it looks like Reed played an Overgrown Battlement, which is it's a mana producing creature, but it does require a wall.
The Lampard's back.
Yeah, the Lampard's back. But the important thing here, Reed played the Overgrown Battlement to stem the bleeding, as we saw in the first game with Judith and Murderous Redcap. And it looks like Reed's going for a wall plan here with this Caravan Carotid, which is just an 0-4 that ETBs and draws a card. Yeah. I'd be interested. So Reed did draft the Assault formation. It'd be interesting to see if he brought it in for this game. And just turning these 0-3s and 0-4s into 3-3s and 3-4s and being able to get aggressive. And here comes the Mayhem Devil, which is one of the signpost sacrifice cards for this deck.
Reed does not want to see that.
It's a really good card. Who knew that a devil on a bicycle would be really good in that?
Is that a bicycle?
It's like a little bicycle thing, because it's Ravnica, so I believe it's just like a little circus demon thing. But it's really good in this cube. And with all the mana dorks that redrafted, they can just be chipped off by this Mayhem Devil once there's an engine going.
Did you have Oven and Cat in the cube?
No, I did consider putting Oven Cat combo in here, but the sacrifice deck doesn't need any more juice, to be honest. So we have a Flame Tongue Carvu here, which is probably going to take out one of these walls. Just figuring out which one to take out here. Something that we know about Ivan's deck There is a lot of removal, so he can chip away and remove these wall cards without much issue. But we'll see what Reed does here.
Oh.
Ooh, so we're playing a Fricks the Sudden Storm, which is a really nice payoff. It's a 4/5 with flash. It discounts your spells with mana value of 5 by 1, and any spell that you cast that's over 5 of mana value cannot be countered. Reed does have a couple of cards such as Rich Scale Tusker. He also has a Sifter Worm, and there's some control magic spells in here, which I believe some of them are over 5 mana. Not that you're going to see any counter magic from Ivan.
Is that a signet?
That is a Pristine Talisman,
Oh,
which will negate the 1 damage from the Mayhem Devil.
Yeah. That's not nothing.
Reed has acknowledged that, yes, I got obliterated in game 1 and I need to figure out how to survive because the longer this game goes, the better chance I have of winning.
Oh, well, Thrix is a fast clock.
Friggs is a fast clock. A 4/5 with flyer is not to be messed with. You need hope Ivan can just find that hero's downfall. Maybe even 2 for 1 with a couple of removal spells to potentially deal with this. Looks like Ivan's going to get aggressive here. Just trying to chip in a few points of damage. And here comes Flame Tongue Yearling, which is the baby
Aww.
Flame Tongue Carvey from Modern Horizons.
So cute.
So it does have multi-kicker, which Ivan hasn't kicked for. So when it enters the battlefield, with a +1/+1 counter for each time it was kicked, it is not kicked in this case. But when it does enter the battlefield, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature. So it does deal 2 damage. So it can destroy that Caravan Carotid that was on blocking duty. And here comes the counter spell. So no baby Flame-Tongue Carvey for you.
So sad.
Okay. So here comes the Hero's Downfall that I mentioned
wow.
earlier. That will just take out that Thrix, no problem. It's seen that Ivan baited out the counter spell just to deal with that Thrix because it is a beating if it sticks around. So it regains 1 life from this Pristine Talisman, which is relevant. So here comes the Sifter Worm.
Oh.
So you get to scry 3, and you get to put a card back on top of your library, and then you reveal that card, and you gain that much life based on its mana value.
And it's a 7/7 trample.
It's a 7/7 trampler.
So no chump blocking.
No chump blocking. So I believe you gain 4 because it's a jungle barrier. So that is relevant. Sifter Worm is just a really nice payoff for these green decks. Just a nice bit top end. Really fun if you can flicker it as well. Oh, okay. So Ivan is just taking control of it.
That's so brutal.
Yeah. Which is what you were saying earlier, taking like the active aggression and the mad treachery is just really good because you can just take the opponent's best creature and just throw it in someone's face and then sack it.
Yeah, this is looking pretty rough for Reed.
Ivan has drafted an incredibly good deck here. I wouldn't be surprised if he free O's with this deck because the sacrifice is just really good.
It's just so consistent.
Yeah.
It has a lot of ways to deal with threats, and
Yeah.
the direct damage is finishing off games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of good synergy here and a lot of nice overlap. The Reed is not completely out of the game. He is
Sure.
on 14. This Pristine Talisman is going to do some work. We do have a jungle barrier that's going to draw him a card when it enters the battlefield, which also can stand some of this bleeding. But also, Ivan's top decks are good because there's just the Murderous Red Cap that he drew that can just do some things. And now we have a Go for the Throat that's going to deal with this jungle barrier. So it's just like Ivan just has an answer for everything Reed is trying to deploy here.
Ooh.
It looks like Reed has a Lightning Bolt to deal with the Mayhem Devil. And then he's going to sack it off and just chip away for 1 damage here.
Okay, with the devil off the board, Reed's probably feeling a little bit better.
A little bit better. Ivan has 1 card in them, but he also has an Unearth to bring back this Mayhem Devil. So it was just a huge 2 for 1 for Reed. or for Ivan here, sorry. This is what I mean. Like, that Unearth is just really good because it just brings back these signpost sacrifice cards. So we have a Fact or Fiction here from Reed. Hopefully we can get something decent here. So we have a Yavimaya Elder, a Force of Will, a Utopia Sprawl, Llanowar Elves, and an Opportunity, which will allow Reed to draw a bunch of cards. So Ivan's just figuring out the best Fact or Fiction pile here, just to make it as difficult as possible for Reed to decide which cards to take here. I do love me a good Fact or Fiction. I like making people think.
Yeah, it's such a weird like card.
It's a very unusual blue card, but I love when people play it because it's just like, yes, I'm going to make the situation really difficult for you. You have to beat me, but you also have to give me the worst cards in the situation. So it looks like Reed it's decided to go for the Llanowar Elves, the Force of Will, and the Yavimaya Elder. And this Elder is going to be put into play now, along with this Llanowar Elves. And these are just probably going to be on shot block duty because they do both have 1 toughness, which Mayhem Devil is very easily able to pick off. All right, let's see what Reed draws here. Not sure what Reed can draw in this situation that can get him out of it. He's probably just going to keep this Force of Will up. Because he can just cast it for the 5 mana, doesn't need to exile a card here. So you have a Zulaport Cutthroat, which is another reward for the sack payoff, but it's just Ivan has nothing to generate that engine right now. But he's deploying a nice board state. He's just waiting to top deck something that can just chain off with this Mayhem Devil and Zulaport Cutthroat in play.
Right, so he's under no pressure.
No pressure. He's at 18 as well. That's a fine life total. Like, Reed is able to stabilize his life total thanks to this Pristine Talisman. Even if he's got nothing to play, he can just tap at the end of turn just to gain 1 life. And now Reed is just debating on what to do here. So we're going to gain 1 life from this Pristine Talisman, and we're going to sack off this Yavimaya Elder to get some lands out of our deck because we don't want to draw them as further into the game we get. Reed just wants some good top decks here. Because the last thing you want to do in a high stakes game, because this if you lose a game in this top 64 draft, you are not top 8 in CubeCon. So there's a lot on the line here. And who just likes top deck? No one likes top deck in lands, right?
No. That's the worst.
It's the worst, right?
Yeah. There's like a mantra, screw beats flood.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah. And we've got Growth Spiral here, which allows Reed to play another land and draw a card. Hopefully Reed can just find something here to stabilize, because Ivan is starting to run out of gas, but his top decks are looking really good here. Also,
Reed has like 4 cards in hand?
yes, he has 4 cards in hand and a bundle of lands. Do you have a favorite basic land? Like a favorite art?
I love the Infinity foils.
Ooh, the Infinity ones are nice. Like the spacey ones.
Yeah.
Spacey magic is quite cool.
How about you?
So I'm kind of old school. I really like the basics they did in the 2000s. So WotC released a series of basics called APAC and Eurolands, and they were lands based on places in Europe and
that's pretty cool.
in like Asia. So there's like a mountain that's Mount Fuji. There's an island that is Venice. There is a plains that is Australia because there's some kangaroos in the art, that kind of thing, which is really sweet. They're really expensive and hard to get hold of now. I would love WotC to do that again because it just adds a little bit of charm, a little bit of geography to it.
It's very cool.
I've got a bunch of the forest in my Tron deck because there's a forest art that is from Nottingham, which is a county in England that I was born in. So it's just like I have that nice little attachment to it as well. So it looks like Reed is stemming the bleeding here. This Pristine Talisman is doing a bunch of work. And we now have a Jury, which is another good sacrifice option. Let me pull up Jury for a second here. So Jury, Master of the Review. He's a 1/1 human shaman. So whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter in Jury Master Review, and when Jury dies, you can deal that much damage equal to any target based on Jury's power.
That is brutal.
Yep. Fortunately, oh no, it looks like Reed's out of it. Oh, that's a shame. So it looks like Ivan will make it to 1-0. That does mean Reed is out of the top 8, which is a huge shame because he has been running really, really hot all weekend, dropped only 2 games, and one of those games was he decided to disappear for a Magic quiz show and then came back to 2-1 the draft. And we will be going up to our backup match here. See who we've got on camera. So we've got Mike Schmidt and Eric Evans. So it looks like we have a... trying to get up to speed here.
Chupacabra.
So we have a Chupacabra. It looks like a Flicker Wisp, I believe, the white card from Mike Schmidt. My guess that Mike has a blue-white blink deck because I can see I saw a Cloud Blazer in Mike's graveyard. And we have a Prophetic Titan here, which is probably one of my more favorite recent additions to the cube. So it's a Prophetic Bolt, so it does 4 damage on ETB, and if you have Delirium, you can look at the top 4 cards and put one of those in your hand.
And in blank, that's backbreaking.
Yeah, right. Even if you don't have Delirium, it's just nice to have this 4 damage spell.
On the battlefield right now, is that equipment? What?
So that's a Loxodon Warhammer.
Okay.
So Eric's just played a a Noise Marine, which is one of the cards from Universes Beyond Warhammer. When it ETBs, you cascade. So I believe it's a 5 mana spell, so you cascade, so you can cast something that's 4 mana value or less. And when Noise Marine enters the battlefield, you deal X damage based on the amount of spells you've cast that turn. So at least does 2 because it counts itself and the cascade. It's just a really fun addition. I'm not huge on the Universes Beyond cards, but this is just a really fun design.
And that foiling is pretty cool. It
Yeah,
looks like underwater.
Yeah, the Surge foils are pretty nice. It makes coverage a little harder because it's really hard to read because the foiling is just so striking. But yeah, that was just a really nice addition because it's a fun blink target because you can just repeatedly ping stuff. And red just wants that nice top end to deal with threats. But yeah, the equipment that Eric has on the battlefield is a Loxodon Warhammer. Loxodon Warhammer is just a really classic equipment that is able to deal lots and lots of damage by giving the creature you control trample and lifelink. And plus, there's a happy elephant on the art with the hammer.
Very cute.
Yeah.
Yes. So is there a dedicated equipment deck?
There isn't. So there isn't a huge amount of artifacts in the cube. There are a couple of equipment. So I have this. I have Bone Splitter, which is a classic artifact from Mirrodin days. And I also have artifacts, stuff like Gingerbrute, that can wear that stuff really well. There is a couple of living weapon equipment, so Mortar Pods in here, which is really good in the Sacrifice deck. But there isn't a dedicated strategy because it's just really hard to have something that can tutor for those because Stoneforge Mystic is a rare.
Yeah.
I think equipments are fun because it makes combat interesting. But yeah.
And what is the land that has counters on it?
That is a Vivid. It's one of the Vivid lands. I always get these mixed up because they all sound the same. So this is a Vivid Creek. They were first introduced in Lorwyn. So when it enters the battlefield, you put 2 charge counters on it. It taps for blue, but if you remove a charge counter, you can add any mana of any color. So these lands are pretty high priority when it comes to this cube because it allows you to splash. And there is some counters manipulation in the cube, so you can always add counters to your Vivid land, allowing you to cast different colored mana spells. So it looks like Mike's just rumbling in with this Prophetic Titan because it is a pretty good win condition. So we have a Fanatic Amogus here. It's not going to do a huge amount because your devotion to red is not high, but it can wear this Loxodon Warhammer really well. And it looks like Eric's won this round because I don't think you can beat a Fanatic Amogus. And I think even when it entered the battlefield, it would do 1 damage because the devotion to red is 1 because it counts for itself. So it looks like Eric has a Rakdos-y mid-range deck by the looks of it. Couldn't see much else. It seemed like there was a good red top end with like Fnatic, Amogus, and Noise Marine. I really want to see more of Mike's deck because I'm a little biased and I love Blink
Yeah.
decks. I love to see the Cloud Blazer and the Flicker Wisp.
And you said Reflector Mage as well?
Reflector Mage is a really fun card if it was drafted in this cube. But yeah, just flickering Flicker Wisps is just fun. So
Unless you're playing a Strip Mine and the Flicker Wisp on bounce lands. That's
yeah,
not fun for your opponent.
I have Flicker Wisp many bounce lands, and that's the kind of cube it is. At times you can do these degenerate things. Granted, they don't come up often, but you can do them. Like you can do degenerate things in Vintage Cube once in a while.
So,
Right.
what made you go from being an avid cuber to wanting to make your own cube? Like, what was the inspiration there? Like,
So I was like thinking ahead, really. So there will come a point in my life that I will be done with Magic, quote unquote. I will not be playing it anymore. I might move on from it at some point.
what?
You know, in a way, like you kind of get old, you kind of move on, you find different hobbies, right? So if there ever comes a point that I'm like, you know what, I don't really play or I don't work in Magic anymore. I've moved on from it. I really wanted this time capsule, which is my cube that I can just crack out once in a while with my friends. And because Cube is basically your own board game. You're
Yeah.
making your own Magic board game and you can curate it however which way you want. If there's a really cool thing that you love about Magic, you can incorporate that into the cube. Like Zach Barish, who was here this weekend, he has a Cascade cube where you get a Maelstrom like a Maelstrom Nexus token where every first spell you cast has Cascade. Because he loves just that snowbally sort
Yeah.
of effect. So I just really wanted something that encapsulates what I love about Magic, which is lower rarity cards and lower rarity formats. That I can just crack out with my friends who I haven't seen in years, and it's just like, yeah, do you want a cube? And it's like, yeah, sure. It's just a really fun way to celebrate Magic. And it's a really good way to express yourself as well. You're like, yeah, Emma really likes lower rarity cards, so she must love stuff like Pauper. And then someone can be like, have like a Teamer cube, and they just go, yeah, I just love the color pairing Teamer. I love these three colors. I want to make a cube around it. It's a really good way to see personality with the cube curators.
Okay, but I'm not sold on you quitting Magic. I don't think anybody ever does
I don't
that.
think I will, but you know what I mean? There'll come a point where my time in Magic's going to be less.
Sure.
So I'm not saying I'm going to get rid of my collection, but having a cube is just a really nice way to kind of celebrate that. So this is a Rafine's Informant. So when it ETBs, it draws a card.
And then you
So-
discard the card.
yeah, it connives on. It connives. It's
Connive.
from Streets of
Yeah.
New Capenna. It's just a nice filler that you can just get rid of something that you may have drawn like too many lands. It's just nice to trade that for a fresh card.
Yeah. Card selection.
In
Good to
white,
drop.
of all
Yeah,
things.
Great.
So it looks like Eric has a reinforced rating here, which is just like a 1-mana 2/2.
And it goes back to hand after combat.
Yeah, it basically has dash. So really nice card for the mono red aggro decks, which are quite good in this cube, just to have that really low curve and just kill people so you can go for lunch. Because I like lunch. So it looks like Mike is more of a Jeskai deck, because I see a Prophetic Titan and a Prophetic Bolt. The fact that he's primarily white-blue means he has that Vivid Grove, which means he can splash the red. And Prophetic Bolt and Prophetic Titan are really good in this cube, just because it's 2-for-1s. Okay, so Eric has played a Swamp here. We do have a Savage Lands as well. So we're going to play a Thopter Engineer, which makes a... Well, it won't make a Thopter on ETB because
Countered.
Mike's going to exclude that, which counts as a spell and draws a card. This is game 3 here as well, which I didn't realize. So whoever wins this gets to get ever closer to that CubeCon top 8. Which will be the Vintage Cube, which is probably one of the best iterations of Vintage Cube in Magic since it started, to be honest.
Everyone seems to adore Vintage Cube.
I love Vintage Cube. It's been really cool to see Ryan Spain, who has taken over that, just to go, yep, this could do with some changes. Granted, I'm a little bit salty about some of it because Riftwind Cloudscape is not in the cube anymore, which is one
no.
of my favorite cards. But I understand the changes because there is some nostalgia, but you can keep things nostalgic while making things interesting. So Mike played a Wasteland there that got rid of the Savage Lands. So Eric is cut off green, but he also has this Vivid Land that can mitigate that too. So we're going to Fork Bolt this Rafine's Informant. Going to see if Mike has any responses here. He could very well have some blink spells. Oh, so we've got Saruman's Trickery here. So he's just going to hard cancel this and make a 1/1 Orc token. Orc Army token, sorry. Because it is a Lord of the Rings card. And there are a lot of orcs in Middle-earth. How do you feel about the Universes Beyond stuff? Are you a fan of it? Indifferent?
I mean, I think it's cool because it will bring other people into Magic, hopefully.
Sure, yes.
But
You're not gonna,
it's a lot.
You're not going to play Bilbo Baggins in your cube, for example, with Doctor Who.
I mean, I'm strictly limited.
Yeah.
All I do is draft. So
Yeah, draft limited is the best form of Magic, along with cube. Do you have a favorite limited format?
Like set?
Yeah, like limited set format.
Original Eldraine.
Ooh, that's a good one. I do like that one. I think my favorite, so I'm biased here. My favorite is Khans of Tarkir because that's when I started.
Yeah.
But I also really enjoyed Strixhaven.
Yeah.
Like, I really like these two color formats that are clear signposts when it comes to drafting. I also really enjoyed the Brothers War because I really like the artifact synergies and all the unearthed stuff you could do. Wizards have done a really, really good job in the last few years making these really fun, interesting limited formats. And adding like bonus sheet stuff just makes it more interesting, right?
I think so. Because you never know what you're going to get.
Stuff like with Wilds of Eldraine with the enchantments, it's just like, yeah, I can curiosity people in limited, and that is sweet.
And Bitter Blossom.
Yes, Bitter Blossom seems a really fun one. So it looks like Mike is going to play a Master Splicer here, which just makes a 3/3 on ETB.
Oh.
It's a really good blink target because you can just slowly make an army of golems. It does make it a 4/4 thanks to Master Splicer. And it looks like Mike here is just slowly gumming up this board. We have a Rafine's Informant, we have an Orc token, and it looks like Eric's going to concede here because he's just not been able to draw what he needed.
Right.
It looks like that Wasteland did a lot of work there, stripping away that Savage Lands. Cool. So there was some fun Magic in there.
Definitely.
Went a little bit longer than Reed's game. Unfortunately, Reed has lost his third round, so he will not be able to top 8. But Ivan has a good chance because he has drafted this really solid Rakdos Sacrifice deck. And Ivan also top 8 at CubeCon last year, so he is looking to run that back. And back-to-back top 8s of an event like CubeCon is quite the feat because you're playing all these different cubes, all these different mechanics, and you're just like, yep, I'm just going to top 8 it. And he's looking to win this time.
Right. So I think Cube is one of the more skill-intensive
Right.
drafts.
I was saying this to Andy, who I was commentating with yesterday. It's just like seeing someone like Reed G come to this event who's won Pro Tour Phyrexia Obi-Wan, who's a top 8 world champion, and they've come to QCon and technically lost one match, or like lost 2 matches this weekend. And that's like the other end of the spectrum when it comes to Magic. You have this high competitive thing, and then you have this cube thing. The fact there's one player that can do that is highly impressive. And I'm also jealous because I wish I was that good, but that's why I'm here and not playing out there. So
Well, someone once told me a wise saying, get good, scrub.
I am a scrub. I will do my best to get good. But yeah, shall we talk about one of our sponsors?
Sure.
Cool. So let's talk about Card Castle. So exclusive sponsor at CubeCon University here. So Card Castle is just a really fun way to look at all Cube content. Everything's in your smartphone. It's a really good way to track your collection. I know I'm terrible at buying cards that I've already bought that I didn't realize I already had. We've all been there. So Card Castle is just a really fun and a really easy way to access your Magic collection on your smartphone. Maybe you want to inventory your cards so you know which cards to eventually get rid of. It's really good for someone like me that is just like ADHD brain, just forgets stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I need this card for this deck. And then I have like 5 of them in my pile on my desk. Because why would I want to sort out the cards on my desk? Because that's work and just want to put it off, right?
I love sorting cards, but I have to be
Really?
in a specific mindset for it because I
You
think it's so relaxing to go through everything.
you can sort my cards out next time because I don't mind doing it, but there comes it's like washing the dishes, right? If you leave it for too long, it becomes a huge problem and you're punished for procrastinating. And I feel that way with sorting cards.
Right. So I have ADHD,
Yeah.
and a tip I would say try to use a Pomodoro timer.
Okay.
It's
That's a good one.
25 minutes, and
Yeah.
then you just, for some reason, your brain gets tricked into trying like to get things done fast. It like
Okay.
gamifies the task.
Oh, okay. As a degenerate Magic player, that might be something I have to do. But either way, check out Card Castle. They can help your Magic inventory, keep your collection tidy, and you can use it on your smartphone or on your desktop.
Cool.
So we should hopefully have round 2 coming soon. I believe they're just finishing up right now. So Q comes this weekend. Today is the last day. What has been your favorite moment from this weekend?
Well, oh gosh, there's so many good ones. The last match that I played,
Yeah.
I just had so much fun. I was like giggling the whole time.
Right. What was
Like it was a great match.
what was the cube that you were playing? Do you remember?
It was you.
Oh, it was
this one.
my
Yeah,
cube. Oh
yeah,
my
it was-
god. Oh
yeah,
my god.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. Yeah, that's great. My favorite moment from this weekend for me was top decking that mountain to beat Sam Black in the
That was
Invitational
awesome.
because it was really fun.
Yeah.
And just seeing the light bulb moment from Sam when it came to my turn, he was like, "Wait, I think I'm dead," because he saw all these cards due to this thought seize. Took the elite spellbinder, which was correct, but I just don't think he quite clocked like the maths that he could be dead if I drew this mountain. And he was like, "I'm literally dead to a mountain." I'm like, "Great, I'm gonna draw this mountain. You are dead." And it was just really good to catch that on coverage and just get some hype for the event. So now we're just gonna go to a quick break before we carry on with round 2. Don't go anywhere, and make sure you're following NRG because they're doing a fantastic job this weekend.